welcome to my Scrappin space. I'm Joni Martin. I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator located in Southwest Wisconsin, and I'm here to share with you a very pretty card made with the beautiful gallery suite. What do you say we get my face out of the way? Maybe? There we go. And let's talk. So Beautiful Gallery is a suite that is part of the annual catalog. It's 6x6 papers and it's so versatile. I'm going to use today a stamp set and one of the papers from the suite, but there is so much you can do with it. And we are using, I'm looking for the paper here, there's so many here. Oh, we're going to use these two papers right here. It's the same paper front and back. This is the card we're going to make. I think it's a really versatile card. Be a great sympathy card, a birthday card, a thinking of you card. So many reasons to use it. So I'm going to walk you through step by step what I used. You can find the directions, supply list, measurements, everything on my Scrappin with Joni blog. The color we're using here is Secret Sea. It's one of the new in colors, and that's going to form both our card base and our mat. And the paper is coming into play here. It's this paper, and I'm going to show you how I did that angle cut. But the first thing we're going to talk about is the stamping. This rectangle is from Textured Notes Dies, and we're going to stamp this image onto there, and then I'm going to show you how I'm going to pull the ink to get a lighter color for the flower. So that stamp is a photopolymer, so you're going to get a better image if you can stamp on a mat. This is the mat that came with our Stamparatus, so I'm using that. You could use a catalog, anything that has a little bit of give. And then this is the die I cut from Textured Notes Die. And here's my stamp. And I'm going to ink this up, and I want to ink it up really well. The more ink you have on the stamp, the easier the technique of pulling that ink out is. And you want to do it as soon as you're done stamping. Like you can't stamp a bunch and then do this. You need to stamp and then pull the ink, because once the ink dries, it's a lot harder. So I do better with the small ink spots. I have arthritis in my hands, and sometimes it's just hard for me to use the larger one. So I use these, but I re-inked it just before I started filming, so it should be good for ink. And I'm going to keep stamping it till I can see that I have ink everywhere here. And again, I'm being pretty generous with the ink, and you'll see why when we do the next step. So I'm carefully looking over here to make sure that I have ink everywhere. Then I'm going to set it down in the center here. And the trick to that is I'm going to go straight down. I'm going to count to 5. 1001. And I'm pushing hard. And then I'm going to come straight back up. See, I didn't rock it. I have a good stamped image. Now, I'm going to grab Wink of Stella. If you haven't used Wink of Stella before, think of glitter without the mess. It's a pen that will add some glitter to whatever you're doing. But you can also, with this technique, pull the ink out and color with it. I'm shaking this because I haven't used it yet today. And then I'm just going to color. And see, as I color over that wet ink, I'm pulling that ink away. And so I'm just staying in the lines. I don't have to really, like just the outside lines. This is the kind of coloring I can do. I don't have to worry about what color is going to be where. I know there are some of you who are really good at coloring, and you probably pull more color from one spot than another to show shading. Yeah, that's not going to happen with me, guys. That's not my skill set. But this adds a light color, like a wash, and it adds a bit of glimmer. Not a lot, like it's not going to look gaudy or like too bright and sparkly to use for a sympathy card, but just enough. Think of like a soft sheen. And I'm doing just the flowers. I'm leaving the leaves alone, partly because the soft blue in the flower works for me. A soft blue leaf does not. Probably would be okay, but I'm just choosing not to. And it's less coloring, and we know how I feel about coloring. Now I did this step first because I wanted to have a chance to kind of dry before I attach it to the card. And it will be fine by the time we get to it again. There you go. That took like no time at all. I'm going to bring it up so you can see it a little better. But there's color on there now. Just as, like I said, like a soft wash. I don't know if you can tell from my lighting, it also has a soft glimmer. And if you want, like right here, it looks like it could use a little bit more color. So I can still go back and grab some of that. There we go. And that's all that took. Okay, now let's talk about the other parts. I'm going to stop and put the ink spot lid back in my little ink spot and put it away before I stick my hand in it. That's not a good look. Okay. And this Wink of Stella, it doesn't really hold on to the ink. Like there's not, you could brush it on a sheet of scrap paper if you're worried about using it next and it's going to have some blue on it. It probably won't, but that's fine. Okay, and again, there's 2 stamps associated with this suite. I use the Gallery Blooms one. Okay, next, let's talk about this diagonal stripe. We're going to start with just a standard card mat, 4 by 5 1/4, Secret C, same color as the card base. You can do it however you want. This is a 2.5 inch by 6. Remember, these are 6 by 6 papers. I just cut a 2.5 inch strip off. And I'm going to add, just use a multi-purpose glue to attach it. And I'm only putting glue, let's say somewhat in the center. I'm not going to go too close to each edge. I'm not going to go too heavy on the glue because we're going to emboss it and we don't want that pressure of embossing pushing it out. And I don't really want glue extra places. So really, just like that, some through the center. Then, and you could do this same technique by doing this or this. I just like the diagonal stripe, but you wouldn't have to. So I'm going to take the point of 1 and just land it just a little bit from the bottom. You know, maybe 1/8, a little less than 1/4 inch. And I'm going to do the same up there. And I want to make sure I have, once I kind of start at that point, that I have paper coming over each edge because we're going to trim it and you want something there to trim. So I went a little far with my glue. So we're going to take care of that before we go any farther so I don't get glue on something else. Just a second here. There. I'm just grabbing a wet wipe. This glass mat is so easy to clean. And actually, I'm just going to grab it from here too, real lightly, so I get less glue on my scissors. Okay, then we're going to trim it even with the back of the card mat, just like that. There you go. All right, excuse me. Now, to add some interest, we're going to use an embossing folder that is part of the suite, and it's called Damask Designs. And when I get an embossing folder, I label with the name and the plates I'm going to use. And I'm going to use 1, 3, and 3. Now what I want to add to this embossing folder I find I have better luck using a labeler than a Sharpie. Sometimes when I use a Sharpie, it transfers to a plate and then I have it where I don't want it. But I'm going to put a reminder on here that my design actually goes this way, not this way, which is what we're used to. So the up and down is this way. We're going to do this, and then I'm lining it up there on that line, and then I'm going to emboss. So let's get these things out of the way, and I'm doing plate 1, 3, and 3. 3 of the clear plates are cutting plates, and you know how they can get pretty snarky looking? This is a great use of those snarky ones because your paper is inside of an embossing folder, so it's not going to be, you know, pick up any of those cut marks. Oh, my plates are in better shape than I thought. I'm having trouble finding another snarky one. And now we're just going to send it through our cut and emboss. There we go. So by just that small piece of paper, we're adding some interest to that background. Not so much that it's going to distract from your flower. There we go. Now the reason I think this has an up and down is this is a flower image. Oh, it's not catching on my camera. This is a flower, this is the leaf, and there's the petals. So that's why I go that way. So here's our background. Now, before we put this away, let's also add some interest to our envelope flap. There's nothing easier than embossing an envelope, and it adds so much. And you do 2 at a time. The reason I emboss 2 at a time is our envelopes, the paper's just thinner than our DSP or our cardstock. And if you have too heavy of an embossing folder, it will rip. It'll kind of catch in there. So doing 2 at a time, you get the same image, and it just saves you some time and it saves your envelope. So I talked already about how this is the bottom of the image and this is the top of the image. And we want the top of the image at the fold. So while it would fit here, the embossed design would be going sideways, which probably only you and I would notice, but this is the option if you don't want to do that. We're going to go sideways. So what we're doing is we're setting it on our plate so the envelope is totally on the plate and the embossing folder is coming off. By keeping the envelope totally on the plate, it's going to stay in line until I just moved it around. Sorry guys. And what we don't want to do is we don't want to fold it under. I've seen people do that too, and that leaves a big mark. Then we're going to run this through, just like that. And it's going to make that little bump when it comes off. I'm pulling this back because I don't want to hit my camera stand. We're done with that. There we go. Pull this out of the way. And with one swipe through, we have 2 embossed envelopes. And you gently just pull them apart. There you go. How easy was that? Let's continue making our card. This is our Secret C card base. On the inside, I have a standard white card mat and just a little strip of that paper, she says with hope. Well guys, it's not here. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to quick cut another one. And as soon as we're done filming, I'll find that little strip. But I'm going to be making more of these cards, so that's fine. So I do just a 1/2 inch when I cut. Remember, your paper's flat against that lip, and I'm holding it in place, and then I'm cutting towards that lip. So we're all going the same direction here. There we go. Now, if you did not want to emboss, you would have enough left after you cut this strip in your one to also cover your envelope flap. So it's really whatever look you want. I'm not sure what this card's going to be yet. Could be a birthday, could be a get well, could be a sympathy. But once I stamp my sentiment, I will glue that on and trim it. And let me just show you here. I'll just hold it in place so you can see. By doing that, you just bring a little bit of the front of the card to the inside, and it's just such a good look. Okay, this one is going to be attached flat, and it's an embossed surface, so I'm going to go with the multi-purpose glue. I'm not going any closer to the edge than that because when we press down, we don't want that glue coming out. That's going to go here. And you wouldn't have to use this embossing folder, obviously. I grabbed it because it goes with the suite. Any overall design would work. And as I said, that strip of paper could have gone up and down or the other way. But it's just a quick and easy way to add some interest to the background. And by using the designer series paper rather than cardstock, it's not as heavy as you're running through the embossing folder. And when you look close, there's a lot more texture to this paper than there would be a solid piece of cardstock. But whatever works for you. Okay, here's our piece that we did right here. We're going to add some dimensionals to that and pop it up. And those are just, if you haven't used them before, think of little pieces of foam that come off the thing sticky, and then we're going to peel off the backing, and they're great adhesive. And just add interest, but they don't make your card so bulky that you can't use a standard stamp. There we go. And I'm holding it rather than putting it on the plate because I think it's dry, but just in case. We don't want to get this far in our card and smuck up the front, do we? There we go. And I'm just kind of lining up that corner and this corner on there. So that was pretty easy and very pretty. The only other thing I did, these embellishments are flat pearls. They are the 25, 27 in color flat pearls. And I'm going to grab from my little stash here. They come in all 4 colors, but I pulled out just the 2 colors from this card for a project. I'm going to grab Cloud Cover. And they come, let's say large, medium, small. I'm going to use the medium ones. And I'm going to add 3. Odd numbers just are more pleasing. And I'm going to put them in a roughly triangular shape, which just means one is going to be by itself. And I'm adding them to the flatter part of the card. Just, they would work on, it's not that embossed. They would work on there, but it's just a little easier. So when we say roughly triangular shape, that just means one hangs out by itself and the other 2 are closer together. This is a technique you could do with any open stamp, something that, you know, that just has kind of the outline. Flowers are, you know, easily the ones we think of, but yes. So there's our card. There's our envelope. And again, it could be whatever you need it to be. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it more than you know. If you liked what you saw, please share it with your crafty friends. And until next time, take care and keep crafting. It's good for you.